Well, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Roots of Success podcast. I am your host, Nate the Great Peterman, and today I have a very, very special guest. I've known him, I'd say, probably for the past, 3 to 4 years. Time certainly does fly, and I've met him actually at some conferences and events down in the DC area for the first ever time. Him and I, we've really hit it off really great ever since. And he's definitely somebody that I look up to, as a mentor, to say the least. My guy, Matthew Flores. What's going on, brother?
Hey man, I'm blessed. I'm excited, honored, proud of you, man. I'm excited that you got a podcast before me, man. What's up with that?
Hey, we out here growing, you feel me?
Yeah. No, I love it. I love it, man. Fantastic.
Heck yeah, man. And for some of you guys that might be wondering, who is Matthew? Give me a little bit of a background. So Matthew Flores is a speaker, trainer, entrepreneur, self-development, and business coach. Currently the co-founder of CiTY LiVN, a real estate and marketing company, and Geronimo International. Matthew specializes in selling and negotiation training. During his career, Matthew has had several small business ventures, from multi-level marketing companies, import and export, and other opportunities. Throughout this, Matthew becomes a sales and self-development junkie. Attended hundreds of conferences, having over 1,000 selling situations. Matthew is MCNE, Master Certified Negotiation Expert, and successfully read the 100 books listed for the RENI, Real Estate Negotiation Institute. He is a first-year real estate agent educator, helping newer agents improve their inner skills so they can increase their outer selves. He is a published author of the book, How to Read 100 Books in a Year, and I Am So Tired of Quotes. Matthew recently completed Dr. Eric Thomas Game Changer speaking program and became a certified game changer professional speaker. Holy cow, man, that's a lot of knowledge in there, my brother.
Man, I'm telling you, man. It's like it's time to execute and apply, right? You learn it and then you gotta apply it for sure.
No, absolutely, man. So, man, sort of give us a little bit of a background, I guess, sort of where you come from, where you're from, and sort of how you came about growing up to really, man, I mean, being an author, being a real estate agent, being a speaker and a trainer. I mean, sort of give us a little rundown of how all that came about.
Yeah, for sure, man. My dad worked for Goodyear chemical plant for 30 years while mom stayed at home. There was five of us. And so, we never really thought much about outside of just getting a really good job. My dad pushed education, but the challenge for me was I'm one of those guys that if I see you doing something, then I want to duplicate it, right? If I see success in one area, I want to learn and duplicate it. And unfortunately, my dad didn't go to school, so I was like, well, why are you preaching school to me? You didn't go to school, and but my dad did. He did a great job. I mean, he was able to raise five of us, and so I went the traditional route. I went to school. Um, but when I became a senior, me and my dad had a falling out because my dad was a very strict individual, and we just didn't see eye to eye. And I kind of went on my own little personal journey. I've always been a bit of a maverick, so I didn't really like the rules too much. When I got older, I was like, all right, man, forget these rules. I want to do it my way. And went on my own personal journey for a few years, and that was not fun. Uh, and then I came back, started getting structured again, and got a job working multiple jobs, working, making good money, getting nice promotions. I had kids young. I wouldn't say too young. I was 24 when I had my first child. What happened was when you start working, and I started realizing that I wanted more. So the crazy thing is, I was working at this job, and my supervisor was like, "Hey, I got this business that I want to get you involved in." And I'm a young guy. He starts talking to all the young guys in the company. We're all young. We're like, "Let's go." So we get in this multi-level marketing business while we're working. It's our boss, right? It's crazy. So he's like, "Hey, come on." So we're like, "All right, let's go." I mean, if the boss tells you it's okay, so why not?
Right.
Uh, I ended up getting my parents involved, my aunt, my uncle, and just we come to find out it was a scam. the guys went to jail and it got crazy. And so that was young when that happened. But the one thing that I did get, that it opened my eyes to was opportunity. I was like, wow, I went to a seminar, saw all these people, and I was like, you know what, man, I want a little more than what I was raised. And, people kept telling me, hey, you need to get a degree in order to get this. And I was like, well, I'm watching these guys succeed, and I don't see them having a degree or any type of certificate. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna go to work. I'm gonna start hustling my way to try to find a way to do this. I did go back to school for a little bit, junior college. I was actually a pretty good student later in life, but I realized that it was very hard to work, go to school, and raise a family, and be an entrepreneur. So having these part-time businesses was great until I got laid off in 2002. And then I realized, man, it's not that easy being a full-time entrepreneur with a family. I tried it for a year, it didn't work. So I went back to working and took some odd jobs. And then I finally got a job at Budweiser. And when I started working for Budweiser in 2004 is when I met my mentor. And he introduced me to another network marketing business. And my wife didn't want to have nothing to do with it. She's like, I don't have nothing to do with this. These are scams, these pyramid schemes. They try to take our money. And I said, look, I definitely understand. That's fine. Let me do it. And for the next almost 7 years, I was involved in this company. And I really I was enamored by the leaders involved, how dedicated they were to developing themselves, because in order to impact people, they realized that they had to become a better version of themselves. And so I was like, wow, man, like, how do I become this guy? And that's when I got really involved in there. And then I was able to be very successful in the beverage industry for 10 years. And then in 2013, I got my real estate license and did very well by myself the first couple of years. And then me and my business partner formed a team almost 3 years ago now. And just keep moving forward, man. I think people don't understand that. Sometimes people think, oh, you got to author all that. And here's the crazy thing. What people don't understand is you can have a lot of success in a very short time, but that success has to come from a lot of consistent grinding, right? That's why I love ET, because he talks about the daily grind, like grind and grind. And what people don't understand is they overestimate what they can do in the 12 months because they got a lot of energy by just grinding and not studying, and they underestimate what they're capable in the next 5 years if they're consistent with the grind. What people do is they grind for a little bit and they stop. And they like, this is too much work. This is too hard. But that's why you asked me about a topic. That's why it's important that people continue to educate themselves. And so I just want to talk about 3 things, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So 3 things that I wanted to share with you is that, so number 1, people have to increase the amount of reading they do. All right. The statistics are crazy about how much lack of reading is performed in the United States alone, right? The most affluent nation in the world, yet our literacy rates are not very good. Illiteracy is high, right? And what happens is a lot of adults and even professionals feel, well, I'm only supposed to read for this amount of time, is because that's what the state or the institutions require for me to get what I want. Then I'm just supposed to go to and learn on the go, right? And what happens is the reason why you have to keep reading and learning is because you have to keep reading and learning about people, right? This world is all about people, and people change, people evolve, generations change, cultures change, the culture changes. And if you're not constantly staying on top of that or developing or being aware of that, then you are going to be lost, right? You're going to find yourself unlearned in a sea of learned people. And well, at least the people who are really, really successful. So a lot of people are like, well, then I don't want to read, but I'll listen. Okay, but what are you listening to? Are you listening to podcasts? Are you listening to audiobooks? Are you listening to mentors? right? Are you making it a daily habit to learn, to listen and take the advice? And I find that a lot of people, they're very select. We're all selective with what we listen to, which you're supposed to. But people can't carve out a little time to educate themselves on a daily basis. You know, it's gotten to the point now, Nate, that I've listened to so much stuff for so long that I can actually listen to more non-educational stuff than people and still squeeze in enough time to educate myself more than most. And it's crazy because I'm testing it. I want to know why you're not listening more. So I said, okay, well then why don't I go ahead and do like you? I'll listen to the radio on my way to work, on the way back. But you know what? When I'm walking from my car to my office, I'm going to listen to a podcast on 2X. And when I'm walking back from my office to my car, I'm going to keep listening to that 2X. When I get home from my car to my house, I'm going to listen to 2X. I still did what you did, but I was still able to knock out a podcast a day, doing exactly what you did. I listened to the radio the whole time to work and the whole time back, but in between those time frames, when you're just lost airspace, lost time on your way to the bathroom, I'm listening to a podcast. So, you know, I used to be super extreme. Like when I was militant. When I got in my car, it was straight CDs, audio CDs, all the way to work, all the way back home. Okay. Super, 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 super. But I was like, you know what? Let me test this out. Let me find out how I can relate to other people and see if they really don't have time, right? They really can't get their mind around it. And when I come to find out, it's just lack of discipline or or just ignorance, right? They just don't know. Like nobody's told them. Hey, so that's the second thing I want. And I'll say these, and then you can ask me some questions or whatever I needed for your community. Also, so you can read all day and you can listen all day, all right? But what's really going to get you to execute more is associations. Like right here, you and I, when we have conversations offline, I learn from you just as much as you learn from me, right? Because you're in the social media world and you're on the back end where I'm on the front end. So I'm learning from you. And I'm like, okay, the fastest way to learn is just associate with people who are doing what I want to get better at. Right? But here's what people don't understand is you can't just go up to somebody, and we've talked about this. You can't just go up to somebody and say, hey, will you teach me? Will you train me? You can't keep doing that. They're going to be like, man, like now you're becoming a pest, right? Like that's not cool. Like respect my time. But if you are learning and growing in whatever field you are, and you come to me and you ask me for advice, but then you're like, hey, I noticed you do this. I'm becoming an expert in this area. I can help you. Then I'm like, hey, you know what? It's mutualism. Like ET says, hey, let's develop a strong relationship and help each other out. Kind of like what we have, right? And that's the power of associations. So people need to learn, hey, there's an old saying that says, just don't be interesting, be interested, right? Right? Don't be just interesting, be interested. But on the flip side, man, you got to be interesting too.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to find a way to become interesting. And how do you do that? Well, you become very skillful in whatever it is you do, or you become very knowledgeable in something. And that comes from reading and listening, right? And then you become a value to that relationship. And the other person's like, yo, I got to have you around, or I want to reach out to you. And then your associations expand. And so I see that as those are the three things that people just start doing that. And I don't want to hear that you don't have time. You know, I heard somebody say successful people don't find time, they make time. I know you heard that. They make time. They carve out time. And so that's just what I wanted to share at first. So any questions or anything you wanted me to elaborate on any of this stuff?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, I guess just a general basic question. I know you've read an enormous amount of books. So what age did you personally start to like really get into, personal development and just bettering yourself?
Oh man, that's a great question. Because so it was I was 28, right?
Wow.
I was 28. Yeah, I'm already a grown man with kids and a wife, and Yeah, it's crazy, right? So I'm 28 years old, and my self-esteem at 28 was like a 12, a teenager, like going into a new school.
Wow.
Like I didn't really believe in myself because what happens is, we have these old sets of beliefs, and those beliefs, they kept reminding me the negative, right? Our
Yeah.
mind yeah, it just kept reminding me all the things that I hadn't accomplished, all the things that I wasn't capable of doing. It didn't highlight my mind. My subconscious mind wasn't telling me, hey, what you've done, what you're capable of, what you've already overcome. I didn't see those as assets, right?
Wow.
I only looked at the liabilities that I had from the past. And so I couldn't move forward. I was stuck. And it wasn't until my mentor came in at 28, and he was in his 40s, and he was like, man, you got a great attitude, man. You work very hard. He's like, I like you. I think you should be part of my organization. And, people used to make fun of me all the time because I smiled a lot. They used to, they used to call me Smiley and all that. And, you growing up, I'm Hispanic, Latino, and, a lot of times the guys are just like mean mug, like you can't be smiling all the time, right? Like, why are you always smiling, man? I'm
Right,
like,
right.
I'm just happy, bro. Like, I'm just happy to be alive. And then, so for me, I had got away from my smile for a long time because I wanted to be tough. I wanted to be perceived differently. And when I went back, started working, I was so happy and humbled to have that job that I was just having a good time. And I knew that customer service, you have to smile and be kind. And so that actually got me his attention. Like he's like, man, you're always smiling, dude. You're always happy. And I'm like, man, I know, man. Blame it on my mama. My mama's always happy. So yeah.
Yeah.
But I was 28, dude. Like people, like
Wow.
I mean, 28 people are like, hey, I'm already good. Like I already went through school. I'm already in my profession. I'm good. No more. No, man. Like that's why I admire people like yourself. Young guy who's getting it early. Like get it early. Start learning now, because what's going to happen is you started what 17,
Yeah.
17. Dude, literally, take my word from it, you're 5 years away from major breakthrough. Like,
Mm.
because you'll have put 10 years in. I'm telling you the power. If I would have been 10 years prior, if I would have started at 18, I would already be where I see myself going to be in the next 5 years. It would have
Wow.
already happened,
Mm.
right? So I'm telling you, because you've already put in so many years. You've already put in 5 years. Wait till the next 5 years. You'll have accumulated 10 years of building yourself and becoming that new version of you. So yeah, I was 28, man, when I started.
Mm. Man, so let's say somebody's listening to this right now or viewing this, and they're in their mid-20s or who knows early 30s, and they sort of settled with their lives, like they're very content, but they still have in the back of their mind, man, there's still hope. Like I still have that dream, I still have that aspiration I really want to pursue, right? But they just aren't surrounded around the right environment. They need, whether it's a network to, of course, connect with that's like-minded, or maybe they need some books to actually start to read, right? They still have that a little bit of a flame inside of them, but they just don't know where to go or where to start. So if you were in those shoes with the experience that you have, Matt, where is a great starting place that you would recommend? Whether it's going somewhere or whether it's doing something, maybe it's reading a certain book, maybe it's going to a certain community or a certain group. Where is a great place that you would start if you still had that little flame left in you? You know what I mean? Little hope.
No, I love the question, and it's real simple, man. That's why I observe and I listen to these podcasts all the time. And it's if somebody's listening to your podcast, right? They're listening to
Right.
this.
Yeah.
They need to contact you.
Mm.
They need to
That's
ask
deep.
you for
Yeah.
advice, right? You're not talking to somebody else's audience who you're not sure if they're ever going to hear it. You have a specific audience that's listening to you. So the first person they need to talk to, they don't need to go read a book somewhere else. They need to contact you. Hey, I'm listening to
Wow.
your podcast, Nate. What? Boom, because now you can connect them to somebody.
Right.
That's why I'm saying associations. Your community, I'm not going to recommend a book. I'm going to recommend they contact you immediately. Hey, Nate, I'm
Right.
struggling with this. What can I do? Who do you know?
Mm,
Does that make sense? It don't make no sense to
absolutely.
recommend a book because that's not going to help them. It don't make no sense for me to recommend a whole new, because they don't know that, but they know you. They already know
Mm,
you. They're your followers. They're part of your community, so they can touch you. And once they touch you, then you can connect them. You can connect them, because here's the
wow.
thing. I heard somebody say, I believe, and to an extent, I believe this statement. I believe in this country, everybody has an opportunity to be great, right? And I
Yeah.
said, okay, I believe that. But what if people haven't heard that statement?
Wow.
Oh, everybody has an iPhone. Doesn't mean they're on self-development. That means they're on IG looking at whatever they're looking at. That means they're on Facebook looking at whatever they're looking at. You can't tell me that that idea is going to pop up and just say, you can be successful. No, not unless they're in the channel, not unless they're in that Bob Proctor calls that vibration. If they're not in it, it doesn't matter how far we've come technology-wise. I was talking to a friend of mine from New York, and I asked him, I said, hey, man, you saw that young man that got killed, right? He's like, dude, in the last 40 days, there's been 22 murders. You didn't see all those? You didn't see
That's
them on the
deep.
news? See, people don't understand. Like, they think, oh, just because, well, in your world, yes, because you've been exposed, but not everybody's been exposed, right? And if you are exposed, whoever's exposing you to that, you need to talk to them and find out who they're getting information from, so that they can personally show you. That's the fastest way. Like, people don't understand. They want to go outside. They don't want to talk to you and me. Why? Because then they have to hold themselves accountable. They want to say, oh, give me a good book, or tell me something I can watch. Why? Because that person can't call you and say, hey, did you do you say you were going to do? Hey,
Right.
did you do? So it's easy to recommend a book and recommend a TV show, but or a YouTube video. That's not going to help you, man. If you're listening to this podcast, if it's part of your community, they need to contact you immediately, because you have the connections that can help them. So that's my recommendation.
Man, that's deep, man. I never looked at it from that perspective before, and that's a really great way to look at things. Because, yeah, like you said, like the law of association, I could direct them in the right direction to who I think would be best. Like what you were saying, and I like that. That's good. I know mentors have been very crucial to your life, of course. Just starting out and everything, and of course with where you're at now, I know that's very crucial to yourself. Um, I guess for the audience and the listeners, in terms of a mentor, where would you suggest? Let me reword that, because I was going to say, where would you suggest them to go to? Obviously, we already know that answer. Me, like to find, and then I can put them with someone. But where and when would be a good point to start looking for a mentor? Is it ever too early to start? Is it ever too late? You know what I mean?
No, man, you always want to find someone that can help you. Um,
Yeah.
I, it's you got to start early. Like, start now. I tell younger people, man, like, go find someone to serve. Go find someone to serve. Like, find somebody you like and find a way to serve. You may not. Here's the thing. Everybody wants to go to ET immediately, and everybody wants to go to Gary Vee and all these guys. They want to
Yeah.
get mentored personally by those guys. They don't have time to mentor you, man. They don't. And it's not that they don't want to, is they got to be very strategic and fair to their whole community to talk to the right people in the right situation. You need to find somebody who's part of their community,
Mm,
who's connected to them. Does that make sense? So, for instance, if you got Eric Thomas here, but then you got CJ here, right? Because he's a CEO, and then you got, let's say, I don't know, you got Carl. Carl's part of the team, and then you got a Nikki Saunders. Like, you go down, and you may not be able to touch, but you may be able to get to a point where you're at somebody like in the BU Breathe University online, where you have like a BU ambassador like myself. I have a direct line to that. So I have a direct line to that information. And if that's what you want, then you can connect with me. And hey, boom, boom, boom. And if I can't, each one of the states, they have a coordinator. So you can contact them, and they have a direct line to me. What happens is we want to circumvent and try to skip everybody and go up here. But it's like, man, by the time you get up there, that information is going to be so deep, you ain't going to have no way to apply it. You're not going to have any idea to do it. right? Because then he's going to give you information that you need from his perspective, which has a whole team. And you'll be like, oh, great. I don't think I can do that. ET may say, hey, yeah, you want to get more views. Yeah, you need to go talk to your mayor of your city. How am I going to do that? Well, that's what I do. You know what I'm saying? Like, why are you going to go? Well, what do I tell him? Oh, man, I can't give you all that. I mean, I'm giving you this. Whereas you can go down, oh, I need to go. And then somebody can say, oh, you can start here at this level, blah, blah, blah. Master that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense. Absolutely. Man, so do you think people sometimes have the wrong mentality where they're taking too much and they're expecting too much of that one person where that sort of holds them back even more? You know what I mean?
Man, and here's the crazy thing. I'm glad you said that, because you're right. Because I tell my kids, I teach them, but even as an adult who wants to learn and wants to be in the good graces of their mentors and learn from them as much as it, we have by nature, we have a selfish nature, right? So it's like, every question you ask, sometimes if you analyze it, it's probably about how somebody can help you.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to become aware and say, okay, when I go to this person, at some point, I like what you used to say. You used to say, hey, give 4 times and then ask. Like, serve 4 ways and then ask for advice. Hey, how can I help you here? 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 Would you please help me now? And then by then, this guy's like, yeah, man, you've been helping me. Why wouldn't I want to reciprocate? Right? But what happens is we're like, no, I got to get the secret right now. I need the gym. I get around some, and not just young people, it's adults, like grown men. Hey, just tell me the secret. Why would I reveal the secret to you? Why would I give you the secret when I have people who's serving me who deserve it more?
Wow.
Who are going to serve me tomorrow? Why would I start saying, yeah, let me go ahead and counsel you and give you all my gems and help you? And it's not going to be in one conversation anyway. It's going to take some time, right? And I told you this before, how you spell love is T-I-M-E, like it takes time. And so, people need to understand you need to serve. If you serve, you will have those chance opportunities where you can speak with your mentors and say, hey, Kenny, blah, blah, blah. And then you're not taking anymore. Now you're receiving. See, a lot of people just want to take instead of receive. Man, it's so much better to receive a gift than to take a gift. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Wow. No, that makes total sense. Do you think it's harder to serve today than what it was 20, 30 years ago?
Oh, man, I don't know about 20, 30 years ago, man. I ain't that old, bro. But no, man, there's always ways you can serve, man. I think if you really want to build a connection with somebody, you need to learn, you need to find ways to serve. Study, man, do some homework. I just bought a book called Giftology because I'm like, man, I'm not giving enough. Wow. I want to learn how to be a better version of myself. And here's what happens is people don't give themselves enough time to change. Like, go through the season. Don't rush the process of change. You'll know. Here's the thing. You'll know when it's time for you to change a version of yourself. So I'll share this with you. Just this Sunday was the last Sunday that we had with my church. I'd been there 12 years. We closed the doors on our church for 12 years.
Wow.
So I spent a lot of time in that church. And here's what happened. I told you I started my self-development journey at 28, right?
Right.
So all of my life, all the way up to 2010, that was one version of me. That was Matthew 1.0. All right. From 2010 to 2018, in 2010, I left my network marketing. I left my mentor and I started my own personal development journey. And I committed a lot of my life to my church. Okay. But now my church is gone. So that was Matthew 2.0. So now I have a new version of myself coming, Matthew 3.0. Or I'm going to have to reinvent myself. I'm going to have to learn. And I don't know how long that's going to take. These are major events that happened in my life. I had dedicated 7 years to that network marketing, to my mentors, 7 years of a lot of hours and time. And we cut, and I cut it. So that was a version of me. I was like, I got to create a new version. So I spent a lot of time with my church. That was another version. That was a major event. It's cutting 12 years. I'm cutting it out, not by chance. The Lord had a plan. So now I'm like, okay, now I got to create another version of myself. I didn't put the timetable on. The first thing took me 30 years. Right? It took me, the first version of me, it took me, 10 years? It took me 32 years. The second version took me 12 years. No, 30 years. Sorry, 30 years. Took me 12 years. Right? So the first version of me was 30 years. The second version was 12 years. The next version, I don't know how long it'll take, what this Matthew 3.0 is. I don't know, because eventually there'll be a Matthew 4.0, or this could be it. But I didn't know the timetable. So I couldn't try to be be the new version of me, because I didn't know how long it was going to take. And what happens is people say, okay, I'm at 0, but I want to be a millionaire next week. Nah, I don't think people are that foolish, but they say, I want to be a millionaire next year. Okay, you want to be a next year. Okay, but with what version of you? Like, I'm not a millionaire yet. So it's taken me 3 versions of me to become a millionaire.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Like, I will be because of this version. But it's taken me 3. It took me 2 versions to to hit 6 figures. Now it's taken 3 versions of me to become a millionaire. And what happens is people want to bypass all that. They want to be one version of themselves and think they're going to get to where they're at. No.
Wow. Man, I think of Apple, I think of all the versions, all the improvements that, not just Apple, but all these different other companies as well. And I like how you use versions, because that's so true when you think about it. And that's what makes, of course, the successful, at the top compared to everybody else that is just wants to be, like you said, that one version that sort of just wants to stay the same, and I see that a lot. We live in a very big social media age, of course, where, you got a lot of people, especially the millennials and in my generation, they expect things just to be instant. They expect overnight success. They expect everything just to be handed to them, but it's not, right? And I can attest to that as well, because 17 years old, I started reading books, started watching motivational videos, 22 now, and that's 5 years, and I'm just thinking what you said, like, man, what my versions are, because you can just literally keep going and going and going, and then you're going to upgrade and upgrade and upgrade. And I like how you said that, man. So let me ask you this. With a very social media frenzy world that we live in, a very techie age, do you sometimes think that, or maybe you think it might be the number one thing, do you think that is one of the biggest distractions that's holding people back on accomplishing their goals or dreams?
Social media?
Yep.
I think it's a major challenge for everyone, especially the younger generation. I think it's a major challenge. But man, when you have information at the palm of your hand, that's a big advantage, man.
Right.
Think about it. Like, you can just look up, blah, 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 blah. You can learn at a rapid pace, and you can even learn a lot from social media. Like, if you want to learn branding, you don't have to go look and seek in the books like before and find marketing. You just, and so I think it's a big advantage. It's been like this, I hate when people say, oh, you can name distractions in the past too. Hey, look, it took me 28 years and we didn't have that. What was my distractions?
Right.
What was my distractions? Why couldn't I get it together for 30 years? Right? Oh, if I would have had social media, it would have been worse. I don't know, but I know that social media is a tool. It's how you use it. All it is a tool. Some people use it the wrong way. Some people use it the right way. Is it a distraction? To some people, man, I know people making a lot of money on social media. Yeah. I know some young people making a lot of money on social media. So, you know what I'm saying? So obviously it's not a distraction to them. It's actually a helpful tool. So it's all about the eyes of whoever's holding it in their hands, how they're applying it, right?
Yeah, no, it's so true. There's a lot of opportunities to make with it, especially. You see 16-year-olds out there that are just making 6-7 figures. It's like, what? That's insane, man. Wow. So obviously I know, you read, of course, a lot of books, right? I'm not going to ask you for like a book recommendation or anything like that, but how many books do you think that you've read to this date, altogether, like just book wise? How many books do you think you've read to this date?
Oh man. Um, Last year I was tracking it a lot.
Yeah.
I haven't tracked it that much. Let's see, I can do the math. Let's say 9, 54, 50, almost 1,500. Almost
1,500.
1,500 books. Yeah, almost
Holy
1,500
cow.
books. So almost 1,500. I'd say almost 1,500 books. Yeah, yeah.
Wow. So do you have like a process that you read it? Like, do you read it all the way from the front to the back, like word for word, or do you do like a map process? You know what I mean?
So this is my plug, right?
Yeah.
So you got my book, right? How to read 100 books in a year, right? So yeah, there's hacks, man. I do hacks, but every now and then it's really weird. Like I go through these seasons, and they'll last a couple of years where I'll read the books cover to cover.
Hmm.
I'll make sure I make time in my day to do it. Um, but at the in the season I'm in right now, there's so much going on that it just doesn't make any sense for me to do that. So I'm not
I
reading as
got
much as I used to. But I'll still knock out close to 200 this year, 200 books this year. Um, and I like to read. Now I will read biographies, even if they're that thick. I will read them all from cover to cover,
you. Wow.
because I want to know the story. Like I want to dig in. It's taking me a while to read Napoleon's book, so I'm like halfway through.
Yeah.
That's a tough book, but one of my favorites is Alexander the Great, and that one was about that thick. I read another one called Parting the Waters about Martin Luther King. That thing was about that thick, but it's fascinating. Like it's amazing to, because there's stories, right? You can see it. Like you're walking the story with them. It's crazy how that works. And so those are books I really admire. I recommend people all the time, especially if you're an entrepreneur, even if you're a business, even if you're just an employee. Um, Man, read biographies, man. You got to read people's struggle.
That's
You got to
true.
read how they overcame, man. These how to do books doesn't matter because you'll make up an excuse if you can't do it.
Right.
Oh, well, this guy has this guy has that. It's how we are, right? We're judging characters, and we'll make up any excuse. But if you read these biographies, you're like, oh man, this guy did this and this guy had this. You'll be like, oh, well, then why can't I do it? Like the
Mhm.
biographies take a lot of your excuses away. I mean, people still try to make excuses, but the biographies will take a lot of the excuses away when you hear it. Let me ask you this: do you ever feel sometimes like, man, I could have gave more?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and you're like, but I gave so much.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah,
It's like you.
that's the. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Right. It's sort of like you're lying to yourself in a way. You know.
Well, not. I don't think it's just that. I think it's you get so good at wanting. You get so hungry to be better
Right.
that you're like, I could have done more. And the crazy thing is, people will be like, man, you're doing so much already. Like, really? I could do way more.
Right.
But what you're doing right now is way more for them,
Mm.
right? Because they haven't created that. Because what happens is, all you're doing is you're just learning how to get faster. When you educate yourself, you just learn how to get faster. That's how I'm so fast now with things, and that's why I know that great things are ahead because I'm learning how to get even faster with delegation and putting systems together. And I'm like, wow, all this stuff is starting to compound. All the business that I studied, all the stuff is starting to compound, and I'm able to, like Neo, right? I'm able to see the numbers and the stories within the numbers. I'm like, this is making sense now, right? And so that's why. And here's another thing. The reason why I had to read so much is because I told you, man, my self-esteem, and I was older. I was like, man, I got to catch up, man. Because if you do the numbers, if you read 10 books a year, right, by 30, you should have read uh, over 300 books,
Right.
right? If you read 10 books a year. And I was behind. So then I'm like, but if the average CEO reads 40 to 40, 50, 60 books a year, right? And I could have been a CEO in my mid 20s, like I'm already behind 10
Wow.
years. I got to catch up. So
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't just read 50 books anymore. I got to start reading 100 books a year. to catch up because I'm so far behind and where I want to be in my self-image. But that's just me. Like everybody has their own story. Everybody has their own plans. Everybody has their own goals. You know, I tell my wife sometimes I feel like, you know, sometimes I feel like I'm supposed to have this burden of wanting to do so much because I have
Yeah.
big plans to help a lot of people. Whereas 15 years ago, I didn't have them burdens. I was just like, hey, it's just about me, my family, and me getting that money, and I'm good. Right. And that's
Yeah.
okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But for me, it was like, no, you know, the Lord was like, I have big plans for you. So I'm like, well, then I have to become this extreme version of this. I have to go extreme with it, learning so I can become that version. So you could talk about like, they don't just hand the certified game changer certification to everybody. Like the people in there, like they're rock stars, like they're good at what they do and they're students of their craft and they deserve it. Like they're hard working people, very disciplined, and they get the job done. Like you could put those guys in anywhere. Like, you know, they and what happens is you get around these associations of people like that, and it raises your level of your confidence. So in the book, The Magic of Thinking Big, it says if you want to think more confidently, act more confidently. But the only way you're going to act more confidently is to get around people who already act more confident than you. You get around them, you're like, oh man, okay, I'm starting to feel it, I can walk around with my chest out. That's right, I can. I'm not afraid. That's right. But you're not going to be able to do that unless you associate with those kind of people.
Wow. Oh man, that makes total sense. And you know, just back to the book thing, it's insane. You know, you see me post a lot on my Insta stories about like reading books, and it's funny. I read your book, and I was just going through it. Just the way that you break down books in this is just amazing. And people that might hear, man, 200 in a year. Well, I can't even read 20 in a year. I can't even read two in a year. People just can't fathom that. But like you said, it's like once you get that down, and once you actually start doing it, but most importantly, staying consistent with it. Oh my goodness. I mean, I'm 22 years old and I've read close to 40 books this year. And people are just like, what? Oh, you mean college, right? I'm like, nah, not college. Just self-development, bettering myself, getting to the next level. And it's funny, I have people that reach out to me, Matt. They're like, hey, what's a book recommendation? I saw this one book, literally this guy that, we sort of help in terms of marketing. He posted on his story, and I said, man, where'd you hear about that book from? He's like, man, I looked at your story. I got it from you. I'm like, the power of social media,
Crazy.
the power of social media. It's insane,
Yeah.
man. And yeah, it's really just the power of reading. And obviously you're a living testimony of it. I know you get up real early to read, right?
Yeah. So my schedule's changed.
I got you.
This past year, I changed my schedule around because my kids got older. They were staying up later, and I would have to go to sleep early so that I could get up
Wow.
early. Right. So I changed that to spend more time with my kids. My little boy goes to sleep later. My wife's staying up later, and I was like, I don't want this just to be about me, right? So I changed. But for a while there, I was getting up at 3 and reading for hours upon hours to educate myself. I still get up around 5 in the morning, depending on how late we stay up. I spend a lot of time with my wife now, that more than I did before in the past. Um, and I mean, that's to me. I'm like, look, it doesn't matter. Like, I can get up for 30 minutes and grab a book, a 200-page book, and probably finish it, right? Because I know how there's just pattern I've created in my mind. Like, so it doesn't matter. I don't need to be up hours upon hours reading anymore. Studying the books, and then sometimes I'll grab books and I'll study them for a while. Like there's a book I'm reading right now. It's called Predictable. I think it's Predictable Success, and it's a powerful book. And I'm taking my time reading it because there's a lot of good business nuggets that I'm able to study on. But and so no, not as much as I used to, man. Not as much as I used to. I may go back to that at some point once my little boy starts school and get back to a more militant schedule.
Yeah.
But I took a break. I took a break this past year because I just was like, you know what, man, I need to spend more quality time with my family. And sometimes the militant schedule, man, it's you and other people just watch and they're like, hey, what about me? And I work a lot, so it's unfair to them, right? So, but if you ain't got no family, man, you better be getting up. You should be getting up. You should be reading a lot and studying and going to these conferences and shoot, just become a junkie and then just act. If you become a junkie at this, you'll start meeting other people who are junkies, and it's almost with people that can open opportunities.
Wow, man. No, definitely. So when was it throughout, like, the process, right, of your life? When did you have in mind? Because I know, of course, with you reading all these books, I'm sure, the education and the knowledge that you gained, I'm sure it was immense, right? When did you make up in your mind, okay, it's time for Matthew Flores to become an author, you know?
Well, it's crazy, man. So there's a speaker named Brian Thomas, and Brian was doing a speaking circuit, and he's like, "Hey, I'm coming to Houston." He called me out of the blue, like, "Hey, he was part of BU, we're part of BU," and he's like, "I can't come to Houston without you speaking." And I was like, "Okay, man, great." So I went up there, and I did a really good job, and they were like, "Hey, man, we want you to speak at another conference." But while I was at that conference, Darren, who was my publisher, he was speaking to the crowd like, hey, some of you guys have a story and you're not sharing it with the world. Like, why haven't you wrote a book yet? And I'm like,
Right.
oh, I'm not ready. My book's got to be deep. I'm reading all these books, man. My book's gonna have to be deep, and I ain't ready for that yet. Like, I can't write this deep book yet, right? My book's got to be this big. And then, I heard it over and over, and he was like, man, some of y'all are playing games. Like, quit waiting. Like, you have a story to tell. I said, man, you know what, man? And then I started reading some of these books of other authors, and I was like, okay, some of these people writing books probably shouldn't have wrote a book, but hey, more power to them. They wrote a book before me, and I was like, okay, I need to write a book. But I want to write a book that solves a problem. I ain't trying to tell my whole life story because the only people that are going to be interested in that is my family and friends. I want to write a book where I can share a little bit of my story, but I can solve a problem. So it's a big problem, right? People don't read enough. So here, let me show you how I've read so much. And what's come out of that since I become an author is I wrote 2 books. I just contributed to a book with a national bestseller individual out of Canada who's going to be
Wow.
promoting that book. It's going to be a chapter of a whole bunch of successful people. One of the guys he owns a large television company. And so they're going to really promote it big time. And so I've been able to contribute to that book. And now just putting together programs. I got so many notes from all these books, man. I could create guides. I could create all this material. Now I'm going to be able to monetize all this time that I put together. And not only that, when I speak, man, I could drop gems that people just, people are like, oh, you could just go to Blinkist and get like that. I said, yeah, but Blinkist still, they're giving you their version of what they think is good. If you don't read the book, you're going to miss something in that story where the guy said this part, and Blinkist didn't see that. They look for keywords. They didn't see that as a pertinent information for you. Like, you may need to hear that story, and they just completely discounted it because, for the sake of keeping it tight and condensed. And that's what people don't understand. Like, you should read the books for you. Like, read them. You'll discover so much, especially biographies, man. I would not tell nobody get no footnotes on biography. You should read those biographies. You need to hear those stories, man. You need to hear, how Richard Branson was dyslexic and still started a school magazine when he was in high school. You need to read those stories. You need to read Elon Musk, how he was reading while he was a young kid and the challenges he had with his parents. But, he was fascinated with science. And you need to read this stuff, like Jeff Bezos, how he was adopted. You need to read all this stuff. Like, Alexander the Great used to carry a caravan of books with him everywhere. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, you just start listening, you're hearing all these people, what they've gone through, what they've done, their dedication to their craft, to their life. And it'll blow your mind. Like, whoa, I can't believe these guys went through that and did that. And Nicholas Tesla, man, the guy got all his stuff stolen from him, like all his patents. Like, come on, man. Like, it's crazy. You start, and you're like, oh, really, this is crazy. So, yeah, that's why I like it, man. I just want to learn from these people so I can create my own story. So my kids and my family and the legacy that I leave behind, my great grandkids, when I share the story with them, they'll be able to read my book and be like, wow. And they'll have a love for other people's stories. Because that's what it's all about, man. You talk about where I come from. Man, my real dad was killed when I was 2 years old. Like my stepfather brought us in, me and my brother, and he loved my mom enough to raise me. I don't know where we were being. My mom was working 3 jobs. Me and my brother were living with my mom. She was working when my stepfather found her, or they pursued her and whatever. And like, it's crazy. People don't understand. Like, I got a scar on my forehead, and I don't know if I mentioned in that book. I mentioned it in the new book coming out that my grandfather used to own a shoe shop, and I was a baby on the bed, and the door had a nail, and it fell, and my mom was laying next to me. And she caught the door, or else the nail would have went through. It would have killed me. It's like, what? It's crazy. I got a burn on my arm when I was a baby. Man, what's wrong with my mom, man? I got to call CPS.
Oh, shoot.
Well, when I was a baby, the ironing board was and I was little, and I hit the ironing board, and the iron hit my hand and rolled all the way down my arm. So I got, it's crazy, man. Like, that's just as a kid, when I was a teenager, we got in crazy stuff. A friend of mine, we got chased by a guy with a knife this long. He stuck him in the neck, and he chased me down the street, the guy with a long knife. And, I have friends that got killed, and it's just like, wow. Like, that's why when I was 28, I had a lot of stuff going on in my head, man. Like, you don't deserve this, you don't deserve that. I'm judging myself, measuring myself where I should be and why I'm not where I am. And my mentor said, hey, pick up them books, man. Listen to them CDs. When you read a book, you reveal yourself to you. And I'm like, wow, you start opening yourself up. You start opening yourself up. When you read books, I want people to understand, every time you say something, you reveal something about yourself.
Wow. That's deep.
Yeah, people will start listening. They'll start, oh, okay. And that's why you got to be cognizant. And people aren't cognizant. Man, I just sit around listening to people, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I done learned so much about you in the last 10 minutes. And you don't even know it.
Right.
And you don't even know it because you just been talking. And I'm like, wow, I know a lot about you. Right? You can measure a man by what makes him angry.
Oh,
If somebody cuts
true.
you off and you're like, ah, hey man, I know you're a small-minded man, because you should never let that stuff get you. You can't handle big problems with those little bitty things. And if you want to make a lot of money, you got to solve a lot of problems. You got to solve big problems. And if little things like that are bothering you, you'll never solve a big problem. You'll never have any money.
Wow. Especially if you get cut off in traffic, you start cursing up a storm. Oh, you know who you are.
Yeah, I mean, we're always growing. I mean, like I said, I'm
Right.
still growing. But I just wanted to share that so people can visualize a little bit. Like, I'm not just some guy who says, you know what, let me just pick up a book and start reading. Like, we all have a
Right.
story, right? And so I want to take more excuses away. Like, oh, I can't find time. Like, I got 3 kids. I run a business. I'm a BU ambassador. Like, I was serving in my church consistently every Sunday and Wednesdays. Like, but I still found time to do this, right?
Right. Straight up. And I mean, you're an author, I mean, on top of that, you got your own book. You could have used that
Amen.
excuse. You could have used the excuse, man, I gotta make a 500-page biography book, but you didn't, you know?
Mm-mm.
No, man, that's so true. Because even like and for those, that are watching, you can tell, I mean, it's a thin book, right? It's nothing, super duper big, right? I mean, it's the text isn't that bad. I mean, some books, I need like a magnifying glass to look at the text, but this book, I mean, you can look at the text. It's incredible. You got the headers: health, family, marriage, mental, spiritual, and then you got a little section for notes, right? Why get a piece of paper when you can write in the book?
Hey, hey, man,
Oh
shout out
man,
to my boy Darren, self-published in 90 days. He helped me a lot with that. That was my first book. I didn't know nothing about it. And he helped me with the second one. And now, like I said, I contributed to another book, and
wow.
more material coming out soon. But yeah, that's it, man. That's what I got for you today.
Yeah, Matt, definitely, man. Where can the people cop the book at? And then what are your social links that people can follow you at?
Yeah, so on Instagram, I'm at Flores. So you can just look at me. I'm at Flores on IG. Matthew Flores on Facebook. I got my own website, matthewflores.com. Um, so you can go there. You can go to How to Read 100 Books in a Year. That landing page will also help you. If you go there, then I can autograph it for you, which would be great. I'd love to autograph a book for somebody. And I just encourage people to write that book. And I just encourage people to do this, like share stories with people. Share stories because they're encouraging. I'll leave you with this. At my company, we have like 600 agents, and there's a young lady. She's the one that greets everybody, and I always talk to her and I share stories with her. And I shared a story from uh from the Chicken Soup for the Soul series with her, and she's like, "Man, that's a powerful story, man. You need to share it more." And so I told her that, and I'm always talking to her, and she called me today, and she's like, "Hey, did we throw you a book signing party here at the office?" And I was like, "Well, I had one." She's like, "No, but did we as a company?" She's like, "Cause you wrote a book." And I was like, "Well, no, not really." She goes, "Give me a month. We're gonna throw one. And I'll make sure that it's gonna be awesome." So, what happens is when you bless other people, they'll want to bless you. But share your stories. Go find someone that you can serve, so you can learn from them. And then, like I said, man, you got to read, you got to listen, and you got to associate with people.
No, that's so true, and I will for sure provide the links in the description below, as well as the website, Matt. As always, brother. I mean, you dropped so much freaking knowledge on this call. Oh my gosh, I'm literally probably gonna read my Steve Jobs biography book once we're done on this call, man. Like, oh my gosh, Matt, really, bro, I appreciate it, man.
Hey, my pleasure, man. Thank you.
Heck yeah, brother. We'll talk soon.
All right, yes.